Hey, Mount Vernon students. Today's scripture, James 5, 1 through 6, is super tough. Francis Chan called it in his video on Right Now Media one of the harshest warnings that James has in his entire book. If you haven't read it yet, hit pause, go read it, and come on back and let's dive in. So, yeah. Now listen, you rich people, weep and wail because of the misery that is coming upon you. I really struggled with what to say to this verse and how to break it down and teach it, because like for middle schoolers, I remember being psyched to have $100. Once you get older, you figure out that might not pay your electric bill for a month. So, for you students out there who are listening to this, reading this scripture, here's how I want to frame it for you. How are you being generous with what you have, right? How are you depending upon God instead of the things? I remember being in high school especially, and brands mattered so much. If it wasn't a certain brand, like when my mom bought me Old Navy stuff, I would just kind of tuck it in the bottom of my closet. That's a lie. I'm a boy. I balled it up and it was kind of like in a pile at the bottom of my dirty clothes in my closet, and I just wouldn't wear it. And like, that's just not cool. Or I know kids that get made fun of for having off-brand shoes, and it gets back to this thing about wealth. And if you have it, cool, that's awesome. But no need to flaunt it. No need to have a nose in the air. No need to just store it up. And then I even think about stuff like Easter candy. We just walk through Easter. How can you be generous with the things that you've gotten? Do you store it all away and you won't give any to your siblings? Or do you live life with an open hand so that when it flows out and God puts it back, it flows out again, but it never runs out, It's like what Jesus teaches about in Matthew. He's like, the birds of the field, they don't want for anything. The flowers are clothed in splendor greater than King Solomon. So why do you worry about what's coming tomorrow? Why do you hoard up this stuff? And that's what James is calling out, this hoarding up of things. And it can be easy to do, because I think at the heart of it, when we store up our wealth, we're depending upon that sometimes more than we're depending upon God. Because our wealth can feed us, house us, give us nice things. The issue is it can never actually heal our hearts the way God can. And learning to be dependent upon God can be hard when we're always chasing after this other God of wealth. And dependence upon Jesus is important. My final piece, I got two more on this, is in another parable Jesus tells is about a farmer who has this bountiful harvest, so bountiful he cannot fill his barn. And so he builds a bigger barn, right? I mean, it's a logical thing to do. And God says no, I gave you this so that you could bless other people. Why did you just keep it all for you? Is a harvest not coming next year? Is there not going to be more? Right? So it's this continual thought about, are we depending upon ourselves, what we can do, what we can earn? Or are we depending upon God? Because James is calling us out pretty hard. We're just fattening ourselves up for the slaughter for the end of days. There are people, there are orphans, there are widows to be cared for. What are we doing? James is such a guy that loves to push us to action. What are we doing with what we have? To finish, and I'll put this in the notes at the bottom of everything, there's a BibleProject podcast about two Harvard business students and generosity. It's one of the best things I've listened to. There's also a whole nother 5 hours you can listen to with the BibleProject on generosity that is really wonderful. But it's two guys that were oil engineers and making lots of money, and they just started giving away more money than I will make in 10 years in a single year. It's really neat to listen about how they were just inspired to be generous through the Bible. And so it goes to show that it's not that money in itself is always evil, but it's what we do with it. And it's who we depend on. So, a bit of a strange passage as we dive in, and a very harsh one. But I pray that you take time to think about who you depend on for what you need each and every day. Miss y'all. Love y'all. Grace and peace, Mount Vernon family.